This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, wearer of many hats. With me, as always, is my producer and co-host, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here again. Our guest this time, I'm super excited for. And I know I usually say excited, but really excited this time.
We have ramped up the excitement. It is next level.
It's just going to keep going, too. But our guest today, I've actually known for about, I want to say, we were just talking about it, probably about 2 years. And we met through actually World of Warcraft. Playing together.
World of Warcraft. Let's go.
So I'm going to pass it over to her. Bree, would you want to just introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you?
Yes. Hi, my name is Bree Yeager. I am a clinical mental health counselor working at a local elementary school where I live down in Florida. My background is typically in education, and I started wanting to do more mental health wise. I'll get into that in a little bit. But being able to work in the school as a counselor kind of blended my two greatest loves, working with the kids and being in the school system. Like you said, we did meet playing video games, so I am an avid gamer in my spare time. So that's also something near and dear to me, and that's something that I know is very popular for many neurodiverse people as well, in terms of giving us an outlet, helping us relate to other people, and kind of helping us channel some of our energy in a way that's productive for us as well. In terms of my education, I have a bachelor's in family and consumer sciences education as my undergrad degree, which is kind of like home economics, our modern day. So I was teaching things like cooking and sewing and child development in a local middle school and high school. And then when I transitioned to wanting to do more mental health, I got my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling from Southern New Hampshire University. I did some work with kids in the Head Start system, so working with families who are at or below the poverty line, doing some counseling with the kids, some play therapy as kind of my introduction to that. And then when I came down to Florida, I was able to get this job working in the school system, and I work with kids K to 5.
Wow. So how does an education background inform you as a counselor?
It helps me a lot in particularly working with the teachers. Teachers, in my experience, are very kind of hesitant in working with other people who would pull kids out of the classroom because they're so focused on, I have to get the content done. I have to be teaching this. I have to teach to the test. I have to get the scores and things like that. So in times when the kids need to be pulled out, they want it to be as few and far between as possible, and making sure that it's something that they actually need. Because I will be honest, I've had kids who just want to go walk around the halls and just get out of class for a little bit. Exactly. So part of my background as a teacher is I can explain to them, hey, I understand that. Let me tell you what I do. I understand the struggles with trying to get your tests in or trying to get whatever this is done. I'll be flexible. Let me tell you what I do. Let me help you. And I try my best to kind of work hand in hand with the teachers, explaining to them without breaking HIPAA what I do with the kids and kind of what they need, but also giving them the strategies. Like there have been times where I've had some of my kids who have ADHD where they're struggling so bad with executive dysfunction, particularly in the morning with the morning routine. And so I asked the teacher, can I come into the classroom with them first thing and sit with them? And so I would come right in and help him get to his desk, and we'd figure out how I can help him set up his day for success. That gave me a hands-on view to what his teacher is teaching, her teaching style, and also kind of what my little guy needed to help support him too. So then I could give her some strategies and also give him some so that we can make a coordinated, best plan for how to help him come in and tackle his day in a way that gets him set up for success. And that also gives me some credibility with the teachers. Then they can see, hey, she's actually doing things that are beneficial for these kids instead of just, oh, I'm pulling them out of class and I'm sending them back with a lollipop 20 minutes later.
Huh. Oh, the lollipop thing. It's like, oh, we're just disrupting these kids. It's like, well, like maybe some counselors do that, but we don't, right? We are.
Exactly.
It just, it takes a lot to regulate a kid. But I think, that's why that communication is so key, because if you can anchor what you're trying to do through a lens of like what teachers need and understand, then we're not seen as get out of jail free cards. We're seen as supports, right?
Exactly.
It is really hard to teach a dysregulated kid.
Absolutely.
Right? If we can help them regulate, well, then gosh, then they actually have a fighting chance to stay in class and learn the thing and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I told Jake a story one day about one of my boys. He was so distracted by the fact that he could not find his homework. And his desk is a hot mess. There's papers everywhere. There's thousands of folders, there's pencils, there's everything. And he just cannot focus because all he can think about is wherever that paper is. And his teacher is frustrated that he can't find it. He's frustrated that he can't find it. And I just went into his classroom with him. We sat on the floor and we took his whole desk apart right in front of his teacher. We took out all the papers. I helped him organize them. We sorted through it. She was mad at him, of course, that he had to do that. But I was like, I don't mind meeting these kids where they're at. Sometimes they need someone who will sit on the floor with them and go through their whole desk and put papers in piles and help them go through them because their brain just can't handle the overwhelm that is the pile of papers that got that way in his desk over the course of 3, 4, 5 months, whatever it might be. And so again, working with him to help him create a system. Let's use color coordinated folders. Let's create a system for where we put things when we're done with them. Like, not every kid is that neurotypical one who can just, you hand a piece of paper and he knows exactly where it's going and what you're going to do. So we need to be able to scaffold that for some of these kids. And I don't mind doing that. I have no problem. You tell me you need me in 5 minutes. Great. I'll be right there, whatever you need it to be. Does he need to go for a walk around? Do I need to come sit with him? Do we need to go play with some fidget toys, whatever it might be? I don't mind doing that for these teachers. And that's what I had to kind of cultivate. I was telling Jake as well. I've been working there for 4 years now. And that's a relationship that I've been able to build. Since I've been out on maternity leave, I've been told that whoever was in my place didn't do as good of a job. So I've got some catching up to do, but having that relationship with the teachers will make it easier for me to come back in and fill those shoes.
Yeah. And what do you think helps you create that relationship? Like, you've talked a little bit about your background, but like, is that like something that you think some people have and some people don't? Or do you see this more as a, like, you got to play to your own strengths. You got to figure out the way that works best for you?
I think it's a little bit of both for sure, because I've definitely had some teachers who are so abrasive. They don't want any part of you at all, no matter what you're going to do. I had one teacher who told me that I needed time for group, which is 30 minutes. And she said I could have maybe 10, 15 minutes at this one exact time slot that worked for nobody else. And I was like, I can't make that work. And so I had to learn, what does this teacher kind of need from me? What's her problem that I can kind of create a relationship with her and bridge that gap. And she'd been a teacher for 35 years. She was older. She was set in her ways. She was just going to do things the way that she needed to do. And so I started going to meet with her a couple days after school. And honestly, all she wanted to do was vent and complain. She just wanted to whine and complain about kids these days and parents these days and this education system's so different. And I just needed to validate her and be like, yes, ma'am, I hear you. It's tough. It really, really is. Mm-hmm. And after that, we got to a point where she was like, oh, okay. And she's someone who needed things like options. So instead of saying, like, frequently people in the school, like intervention will say, I'm coming on Tuesday at 10. So every Tuesday at 10, they have to send their kid for intervention. For me, I'll say, hey, I've got Tuesday at 8:30. I've got Friday at 12. And she's like, oh, I have choices. So having choices worked for her as well, because then that gave her some control. Mm-hmm. And control is so big for these teachers. They need to be able to see that you're willing to work with them and be flexible. And granted, there are times where I'm like, look, this is all I've got. I've got a, Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and that's all I can do. But I'll just be honest with the teachers. They know I have 106 kids on my caseload right now. I have so many places I'm trying to be and stretching myself thin. And so I'm just transparent with them. This is what I'm working with. Can we make this happen?
Right? Like your job is impossible. My job is also impossible. Can we find a way to set some reasonable expectations here?
Exactly. Is there a middle ground that we can kind of meet? Definitely.
I mean, I'm having some low grade flashbacks to when I was a school counselor,
Oh, oh no.
which is where big time. I mean, and I didn't have 109 kids on my caseload. I had, I think there was 51 kids at Grayson when we worked there. I think that was the number.
I want to say probably about 50.
Wow.
Yeah, because like obviously you stayed longer than I did, right? So it continued to grow. But I remember I had a kid in my office, two kids waiting for me, and then I got a call on the walkie that I was needed right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, until I can clone myself, then guys, you're just gonna have to do this for your own. And like, but we can't.
Yeah, exactly.
A big piece of what I do in my job as a trainer and a speaker is like tell teachers like, listen, not everybody is like Bree and goes and gets a mental health degree. So here are skills any teacher can use in the classroom while you're waiting for someone to come in and have that warm handoff, right?
Absolutely.
What's your go-to self-regulation strategy, Bree? Like the thing that you would tell teachers to use or to integrate?
Typically, the easiest one is the kid just needs a break from whatever's going on. It might be overstimulating. It might be, there's too many questions on the page. They're frustrated by question one, so they can't even think about question two. And so the first thing I try to have teachers, is there a calm, quiet, safe spot they can go in your classroom to go sit for a minute? Maybe you've got a couple fidget toys. Maybe you have some sensory things. Our school actually got a grant and we put together a bunch of like break bags that are just little zip top bags that the teachers can keep in the classrooms with things like small fidgets and sensory items. So they can just keep those there. But just to give them a spot to kind of check out for a few minutes. And for most kids, that's all they need. Just a few minutes to go breathe, walk away from whatever's going on. And then by that time, they're probably ready to at least talk to the teacher and the teacher can help them, or they're ready to jump back into the task. But being able to disconnect from whatever that stressor is usually the number one thing that I would recommend for them.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that the power of the environment is probably the most underutilized force that we have for kids. I mean, you mentioned you're on maternity leave, right? Like I use it with my own kids. Like, oh wow, my kids are totally dysregulated inside. Let's go walk around the backyard for a minute.
Exactly.
It's hard to regulate yourself when the environment is dysregulating. So if you can change the environment, then you're giving your brain a fighting chance to regulate.
Absolutely. Yeah, we also have extra support people at the school who will offer to take the kids out just to go for a walk, just to walk around the school. Not a punishment thing, because that's what most kids jump to. Am I getting taken out of class because I'm in trouble? Is the resource officer coming to get me because I'm getting suspended? And it's literally just for a break. You get to walk and talk with him. He'll chat with you about what's going on. It'll just be a few minutes to take a lap around the school, and then we come back and we're ready to go. So that's also the thing we're working with kids on, is kind of breaking the stigma that certain things just are immediately a punishment. Going for a walk with, Mr. Gindle is sometimes a bad thing. Sometimes it's just your teacher saw you needed a break and she's trying to catch you beforehand. Our school guidance counselor. So I'm not our guidance counselor. I am a contracted counselor in the school in addition to our guidance counselor. So I also have that extra support from them. And so they've offered their office as well, because there's multiple people in there who aren't just our guidance counselor. There's our success coach and things like that. They offered their office as a calm down spot for kids too, that they can use preemptively. When they feel that they're escalating, or when the teacher sees that they're escalating, hey, let's go catch this before we have a problem. And they're allowed to go down there, play with some fidgets, talk to somebody, get a place to cool down. But at first, most of my kids are like, I'm going to the office. I don't want to go to the office. It's like, no, you're going to the guidance office to go hang out and calm down for a few minutes. And then it got to the point where the kids would start to realize, hey, I'm noticing that my body's feeling frustrated. I'm noticing that I'm having a hard time with, my group member. Can I go take that break? And being able to use that preemptively so we can catch these behaviors before they become a blow up or a meltdown or anything like that.
Absolutely. And I think that what you're speaking about is the intentionality of giving a kid a different experience than what they expect. I think our kids are bringing a lot of trauma to us.
Absolutely.
the kid you help look through their desk, I'm sure they've heard a million times, like, your desk is a mess, you're so disorganized. How are you ever going to get anything done?
Exactly.
You and I were like 1,000% those kids, right?
All of school.
All of school.
All of school.
I am much more organized now, but it's because I'm in control of my own space. And also my brain's turned up. I'm 41 now. So if that kid expects to get screamed at and you're like, yo, I got you. Let's find it.
Mhm.
Is it the blue paper, yellow paper, the other yellow paper, the crumbled up thing?
Right.
Why is there a sandwich here? Like, but it's that moment of, and Bree, I think this is probably your experience. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like on the other side of that instant distrust
Mhm.
is a desperation to be seen and believed.
Absolutely. Yes. So much of my foundational work with the kids. I'll explain my process that Kidsy referred to me also. I don't just automatically see all the students in the school, obviously. It's a process by which someone in the school notices there's a need in this child. It's not necessarily neurodivergence. It could be, the parents are divorced, could be there's a death in the family, general anxiety. And then they send the referral to me. I connect with the parents to hear their experience. They have to sign a consent form, and then I can meet with that kid. Now, that doesn't always mean the kid wants to meet with me just because their parents signed them up for it. And so there are times where I come to get these kids from their classrooms and I'm giving them my spiel. I'm Miss Bree. This is what I do. Did your parents talk to you about me? And they say no. I'm like, great.
Awesome.
So now you know nothing about me. I'm a random person taking you out of class and you don't know what's going on. And so I just have to jump into some icebreakers. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite activity? Whatever. Then when we get to my office is when I kind of talk about, this is what your parents are seeing, this is what your teacher's seeing. Do you have any opinions? Giving them some control in that space. And as always, I say, you don't have to participate if you don't want to. But, I like to do fun things. I like to do art with you guys. I like to listen to music. I always have fidget toys. I've got Legos. I've got all kinds of stuff to kind of get them to buy into it. Because for some kids, it is intimidating. They're expecting, like you said, the worst kind of thing. They're expecting something bad or to be, judgmental. Oh, my parents signed me up for this. Of course they did. That kind of stuff, especially my older ones. Or my parents said that I have to come here. No, this is a place where we just want to help you out. And so my first few sessions are just foundational. Let's play some games. Let's get to know each other a little bit. And I'll tell you about what I do and we'll see if we can make it work. I'm not expecting perfection from you. That's not how this works. I'm just here to give you, some strategies, some tools. I told one girl I was going to give them some tools to help them cope with some emotion. And she's like, I don't know why you have power tools. I was like, sweetheart, that's not what I mean. I just feel funny saying coping skills.
Oh, sweetie.
Just take a power drill right to their head.
Exactly. But it's a way to kind of meet them where they're at to give them the power back. Because I have some kids who, like I said, will come in ready to fight. They don't need help. They don't want help. They don't want nothing. And I'm like, let me find something we can connect on. What movies do you like? What games do you like to play? Miss Bree loves games. Do you watch anime? I watch anime. What do you got? Like trying to find something with them. And that can usually help them kind of buy in. And then once I get that foundation connected, then I can start getting them to start opening up. But even that process isn't always immediate. Some kids will give me bits and pieces here and there, but some kids will take me over a year to get them to finally open up about the harder things, or like we said, the trauma. I may hear about it from the parent. I may hear about it from the teacher, but I'm not about to go throw it in that kid's face. Hey, your mom said this happened, because that's going to ruin everything. So being able to build up that relationship with that kid when I've got information they don't necessarily know that I know. And when we finally get there, it's like, man, now we can really start doing the work.
It's like, I'm just sitting there thinking about like all the kids over the years, right? And
yeah,
we have more resources.
Mm-hmm.
I had a particular kid who was probably top 5 most defiant, obstinate kids.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to refuse to get into my office and then refuse to leave my office. I'd be like, bro,
yes,
like,
exactly.
I
think I know who you're talking about.
Actually, no. This is not a kid you ever met. This was in my first private practice when I worked for a group.
Then there's too many from other schools that would have been the same.
We could transpose a lot of this stuff onto the kid that you're definitely thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I remember just sitting there and with this kid, like going through my mental Rolodex of like, what could I possibly do with him? And then like I moved my phone and I accidentally hit the volume button. And I had been rocking out in the car to Greatest Showman soundtrack.
Nice.
And the kid was like, whoa, wait, is that Greatest Showman? I'm like, perhaps. Do you like this? And he's like, oh my God, how good is this I mean, like the music. I'm like, well, I have the whole
Wow.
here on Spotify. Would you like to listen to these? He was like, I mean, but like, aren't we here for therapy? I'm like, bro, you fought me for 15 minutes to walk through the threshold of my door. If you want to listen to right here, right now, yes, let's just.
Absolutely. Let's go.
And I mean, I don't think kids like that ever get easy, but they do get easier.
Hmm.
So it became a thing of like, yeah, man, hey, let's listen to a song or two before we get started today. Be like, oh, cool. And then we would just walk into my office. And then I realized I wasn't out of gas 20 minutes into the session.
Yeah.
Right. I actually had some stuff in the tank to try and throw in an intervention with him from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely. This reminded me of one girl that I had that loved musical theater and things like that. She was on the autism spectrum, and that was what she was fixated on, was all kinds of musicals, to the point that she like almost took on the personality, which was frustrating for her teacher, but I didn't know anything about. And I was like, here, you come into my office, I got you for 30 minutes every whatever Friday morning. Tell me everything you want to tell me about it. I went home and I watched the movies, I went and researched all the songs, I did everything. And we worked on, again, meeting her where she was at. She could tell me all about the history of it and all the characters and the actors and all the songs and everything. And the main thing she needed to focus on was social skills and how she could relate to people without using kind of musicals and things like that as like a projection. And so I became kind of her sounding board, and she'd ask, we'd go through, like I said, like you said, listen to some of the songs, talk about some of the characters, whatever it is. And then I would let her ask me a million questions. Is this appropriate? Is this okay? How can I make this friend? How can I relate to this person? How can I do that thing? And because we made that relationship and she knew that I'd let her ramble about whatever she wanted to for the beginning of the session, we could get through what we needed to do. So that relationship is absolutely key to getting anywhere with these kids, neurodivergent or not.
And I mean, honestly, there's no better intervention, there's no better authentic way to connect than to say, here's the thing you want to talk about. Here's how to shape that in a way that it fits broader social conventions, right?
Perfect.
I think a lot of social skills programs that are not neurodivergent informed are like, it's like if Jake only spoke Spanish at home, I'm like, here's how you speak English at school, chief. We're like missing something fundamental about how we communicate.
Yes.
It like this sound like a shameless plug for my book, and I guess maybe it is. Like I'm talking about like in a situation and you want to info dump, here are some things you can say using meta communication around that. Like, I sure do know a lot about the thing you just mentioned. Would you like to hear me say a lot about it?
Yes.
And people are like, yes, tell me more. And people are like, no, I'm good. And how you deal with that, like as a decision tree.
Exactly.
An authentic way to connect with people rather than just saying, okay, now talk normal.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big thing, is like the censoring of yourself. And I never, ever, ever, ever want that to be the go-to for these kids, because their interests are special and they're important. And I just want to help you kind of figure out how to use that in, your day-to-day kind of things, whatever that looks like. Because so many of my kids are like, well, it's weird. Well, it's awkward. I have one girl who loves to have like all kinds of crazy keychains on her backpack. And she's like, well, they're picking on me for them. Okay, well, are you going to stop putting them on your backpack? Do you suddenly not like that TV show, movie, whatever it is? And she's like, well, no. And I was like, then, sweetheart, we got to figure out ways that you can feel confident in yourself. Look at how many people have come up to you and seen that keychain and been like, oh my gosh, I love that. But I was worried other people would pick on me. And there you go. You've made a connection. You've made a friend. And now you have someone else that you can connect with. And so building them up to letting them see, just because you like something that you think is quirky doesn't mean it's bad. It's okay to celebrate it. Like Jake said, we met playing a video game. You can meet anyone, anywhere. You just never know. You got to put yourself out there.
We met playing a video game in a very fun way, too.
Yeah, good times.
Perhaps the funnest way.
It was.
When I think back about my own life, I spent so much time trying to hide the nerdy aspects of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in the 90s and early aughts, like the culture wasn't as receptive.
I agree.
I mean, like now you can talk about Game of Thrones and Star Wars and it's the monoculture. It's not like this
Yep.
tiny thing that I wear. Like, I remember like we used to like hide my friend Grant's Star Trek stuff when girls would come in his house. Like we like slam in the closet. And now it's like you see people like walking around in Trek hoodies, and you're just like, oh, things are different now.
Yeah.
But then you realize like the things that you love most about yourself, which are probably going to be the nerdiest things about yourself, are the places where you're the most authentic and you're going to make the deepest connections.
Exactly.
So if I'm at some networking event and the guy's like, how do you feel about stocks and bonds? And I'm like, I'm a class 17 half orc in D&D. Does that
Literally?
It
Yes.
doesn't help. Oh no, it's not help. Okay, good. Good note.
But your orc's also a stockbroker.
There you go.
Come on. I mean, you can't only be questing.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah, I met a new kiddo for the first time this year, and just in our icebreaker conversations, learned he liked anime, which again, back when I was younger, was taboo. Only the super nerds liked anime. You don't talk about it, you don't tell anybody. And now it's so mainstream, everyone does. And so he mentioned liking anime, and I just threw out a question about what character he liked, and it was like he transformed. He was like, "Oh my God, like I like this character and this reason, it's why." And then, what other animes have you watched? And I'm like, "Oh gosh, like I can tell you some of them are not appropriate for kids, obviously, based on whatever." Violence and whatever your parents let you, but paring it down to what the normal ones are. And we spent like, again, 15 minutes probably talking about it. I'm like, all right, kiddo, I got to get you to sign these pieces of paper today just so I can enroll you, but we can do that next session. But all the way down the hallway back to class, he was talking my ear off about what he liked. And, maybe you can look up some more and you can recommend me some and we can talk about it next time, and giving me homework and things for me to research and look up because he loved them so much. And immediately we had that relationship and that in. And he was looking forward to seeing me again.
That's like fantastic, just because like from a teacher's perspective as well, like the relationship building that like you're talking about is so critical.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing like thinking to that older teacher who started like 35 years ago, like you were saying, like
Yes.
the disconnect between the intentional relationship building and just like, this is how it's always been, this is how I've always done it, so like I'm not changing.
Mm-hmm.
These kids need to step up to where I am,
Yes.
rather than I need to adjust a little bit to help these kids, and it's a new world. Like, what would you say to like those kind of teachers?
Probably similar things, to try and meet them where they're at. Like, even again, a disconnect of 35 years of education, surely there's something you guys can level with. There's got to be something. Be it your favorite color, be it your favorite, superhero, whatever it might be. Teachers are people too. You've got interests. You can't tell me you don't. So again, one of my best friends, she loves Harry Potter. The teacher that one of her most difficult students had the year before did not. And so they had a hard time finding something to connect on. But when he got up to, Mrs. Carnley's class, she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Gryffindor." And that completely changed everything for this kid. And of course, introduced him to me. He's one of mine now because I've got my Hufflepuff lanyard that I go around the school with. But that completely changed it for him, having something they could connect on. And again, I tell all my teachers, if this is a tough kid, you got to find something you guys can level with. Even if it's, "Hey, I like your Spider-Man shirt." I had one kiddo, he was cranky as all get out first thing in the morning. He was the grumpiest little guy. Love him to pieces, but I had to find something to kind of brighten him up with. And he almost always came in wearing a super baggy sweatshirt or sweatpants or something. And I'd be like, "Man, buddy, you look so comfy this morning. I wish I could wear that to school. I would just be so happy." And so if I came to get him and I didn't mention it right away, he'd be like, "Miss Bree, I'm so comfy today." Like, "I know, buddy, you do look so darn cozy." And so I brought that up to his teacher. And so she did the same thing, not necessarily the same, but, noticing, "Oh, you got your Spider-Man shirt on today. Spider-Man's my favorite superhero." And that just softens him right up. And for kids who have a hard time in the morning, that's typically when teachers are ready to hit the ground running. So you got to have some kind of soft start to help them. And if it's just as simple as telling him he's got a cool shirt on or he's got the fastest, running shoes you've ever seen, you got to find something. And that will change everything. So when you do have to maybe correct them for a behavior, they're like, "Well, we already have that relationship." So they're going to take it a little more gently than if it was just, "Oh, you need to sit down. You just got here. Take off your jacket, put your backpack up." If you start it in a slower, softer way, they're going to be so much more receptive when you're like, "Hey, buddy, we do got to get started this morning."
I mean, I often refer to that as like depositing into a bank.
Mm-hmm.
I'm depositing into that social bank of, here we are with I cannot tell you how many therapy sessions I'm like, "Yes, we're going to talk about deep Star Wars canon for 45 minutes." And then like, "Yeah, bud, listen, I'm happy to hear about your long fanfic about Grogu's origin stories.
Yes.
But like, we all seem to talk about your OCD today a little bit too." And using the meta communication, it greases the skids. It's like kids are like, All right, well, okay, but next time, Grogu, like absolutely next time, right? We're here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's treating them as people.
Yes.
Kids aren't passive receptors, they're active engagers.
Mm-hmm.
The shirts they wear, the hats they wear, the shoes, the keychains, like that kid, like it's communication,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're letting us see glimpses of who they are. I remember telling a very old school teacher at a school here in New Jersey, he's like, I hate when kids come in with those headphones on. I'm like, get mad at them about that. Or you could ask, what are they listening to?
Yes.
He's like, oh, I'm not going to like any of their music. I'm like, how do you know? Right? How do you know? And one of the kids came in and he was like, well, you wouldn't get it. It's like, it's this guy. His name is Dizzy Gillespie. He's a very famous jazz musician. And the teacher was like so ready to scream at this kid for like some TikTok bullshit. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
he's like, wait, you like Dizzy Gillespie? The kid's like, yeah, what of it?
Oh my gosh.
What? I mean, they're telling us things. Why would we not knock on those doors?
Yes, absolutely. And again, that can be one of the main barriers to education because so many kids will be so quick to say, I suck at math, I hate reading, I can't spell, I can't do history, I hate studying, whatever it is. And so they already come into class or into school with those preconceived, I can't do this attitude. And so by the time you put something that's a little bit more difficult in front of them, they're already checked out. They're already not going to do it. And those are my kids who are doodling in their notebooks and ripping up papers and pacing around the classroom, tipping in their chairs, whatever it might be that's distracting. And the teacher just sees the behavior and they're kicked out of class. Or if I'm lucky, they call me and I can see the kiddo, but 9 times out of 10, they're just sent to the office for disrupting the learning environment. And that kid's just, they've gotten no benefit from it. And it's only reinforcing, oh yeah, I hate math. This happens every time I do math. Math sucks. And then we've completely jaded them for an entire subject for the considerable next part of their life.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. What fun.
Well, and they're also like their identity and their sense of self as a student. Like, oh, every time I go into math class or any class even, I'm going to be a problem student. Like, I'm going to get in trouble for doing this thing. I'm just going to get yelled at and yelled at and yelled at. And that just carries through.
Yes, my kids with a reputation. I will say I hate the way that we do PE down here or gym. They put all of the fifth graders, which down here is like 7 different classes of like 25 kids outside at one time with 3 adults.
What? Oh.
Yeah, you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked the behavior issues that go on out there. And this person's bullying me, and none of the teachers see anything, of course. And I have some of my kids who will get in trouble one time, and then the teachers are like, oh, I can go pick on that kid because they've got in trouble. So they're the only one I'm going to watch out of these hundreds of kids out there. And then I've got a frustrated kid in my office saying they're picking on me. And I'm like, I don't have an answer for you other than, that kind of like they get that assumption so quickly. And then they're like, well, I hate all the PE coaches. So they're already mad at me. So I might as well act out. Who cares? I'm going to go pick a fight with so and so because I'm already going to get in trouble. I bet she's already told my teacher and I bet I already have a referral in the system going home. And then it just, like I said, ruins the foundation for everything else. Instead of being like, okay, well, what actually happened? Which unfortunately with 3 adults, you never get the right story.
Yeah.
Because they only ever see a tiny piece of it. But trying to help the kids be like, look, that's not exactly how it was. Today was a bad day. It's not a bad life kind of stuff. Trying to shift their mindset, help them with those thoughts and help them work through and hopefully find one adult that will be a productive person for them out there and actually advocate for them. But even in a situation where we're already stuck in a negative mindset, it can be hard to hear the right thing. One of my little second grade boys came to me. He goes, the PE coach told me I suck at kickball. I was like, sweetheart, respectfully, it's probably not how it went.
Yeah.
So like, talk me through what's going on. And he is one of my kids. He's very athletic. He's very sporty. He plays a lot of, baseball, soccer, all the sports. And he was rolling the ball too fast and the kids couldn't kick it. And so they were getting frustrated, but he was the team captain. And he's like, well, she told me that I needed to stop rolling it so hard. So she told me that I sucked at kickball. I was like, honey, that's respectfully really not what Miss Ashley said to you. But when we're so frustrated about something or we're upset, we just assume the negative thing or we, go automatically into that negative mindset. And I was one of my last sessions before I left. So I don't know if we necessarily navigated past what Miss Ashley actually meant. But the goal was to be like, buddy, we need to kind of check out our assumptions. Those automatic little negative thoughts that pop up, they're not always true. We got to look for the evidence. And then is there actually something to support that? It's where I love my CBT. But try to help them see, it's not always a bad thing. Just because I got some constructive criticism doesn't mean that she picked on me, whatever it may be.
I think it's also like super important is like reframing it for them where it's constructive criticism. It's not them insulting you, demeaning you, like
Yes.
picking on you. It's
Yes.
here's the thing that was actually said. How do we interpret that rather than
Yes.
how do we interpret the feeling behind what you're thinking was said?
Exactly. That interpreted what I was trying to say so much better.
Yeah. So like, the technical name for like separating what was said versus how it felt is prosody. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And we had a kid when we worked at Grayson, same thing. Recess was a goddamn nightmare. It was me, Jake, and Alexa versus the world. You remember Alexa?
I do.
And like there's just a million skirmishes. You're like, all right, that kid is only bleeding from the face. That kid is bleeding from the everywhere. I'm gonna go help that kid.
Oh, jeez.
Bleeding from the everywhere. That's a technical.
Oh my gosh.
So, but yeah, like kid A and kid B get into a fight, right? So I take
Mhm.
kid A to my office and we're deconstructing it. And we go to get kid B, and kid B's walking down the hallway, giving off all the physical signs of I'm pissed and I hate the universe.
Mhm.
Cartoon smoke is coming out of his ears, right?
Mhm.
And kid A is like, hey man, I'm really sorry we got in a fight on the playground. Are we cool? And kid B's like, yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
He goes, he forgave me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my sweet honey child. That is, we have a lot of talking to do, right?
Oh.
Because their brains, when they move so fast, they can't separate content from process.
Mhm.
We need to help our kids have the tools to do that. Because, I mean, especially as kids move, from 5th grade into middle school and dating, flirting becomes more of a thing.
Yes.
There's a big difference between someone you're interested in saying, like, no, stop that, and no, stop that.
Yeah.
But if kids can't pick up the difference, then we've got to shape them. We've got to meet them where they are and shape those skills.
Mhm. Yeah, that's one of my favorite lessons to try and teach with the kids is tone of voice. And oftentimes it starts simply at home. You ever call your mom bruh? All of them, yes, they've called their mom bruh. They've, talked back to their dad, whatever it might be. And so we just try to talk about the way that we say things. If I'm like, hey, can you put that down? As opposed to put that down. And most of them don't even notice. It's something so simple that we just learn as we grow and change and develop. But something simple like that can be, like you said, just a game changer for things. How do we pick up on this? How did I come across that person? What did they see? Body language is another really big one. One of my favorite series that I use with the kids is A Little Spot, and it goes through all kinds of different emotions in a way that brings it down to the kid level. But the most foundational one that I use is it introduces all kinds of different emotions as well as the body language associated with them. And so typically in my groups, we read the book together and then I have them play charades. They come up with me one at a time. Someone picks out the emotion, they show it to me, and they have to convey it to the group. And then they act it out however they want to, be it rolling on the floor, be it hiding under a desk, whatever it might be, however they want to convey that emotion. And then everyone has to guess. And so that helps build on those foundational skills that are so automatic as adults that like we have to kind of remember, oh, they don't already know that. They need to see what it's like, otherwise they're going to go up to Johnny who's angry in the corner and ask if he wants to play, and there's going to be a big fight. So we need to figure out how to read other people and how to understand those kind of social cues so we can navigate those social situations and respond appropriately.
And as this conversation has gone on, I mean, I think we're really organically demonstrating what mental health informed practicing is, right? Because this is stuff a teacher could do, a principal could do, a librarian could do, a parent could do, a coach could do. Like people often talk to me, I don't want to speak for you here, but people often talk to me like there's some sort of like secret sauce I do.
Yes.
Like you must have a code or like a way of being. It's like, no, I just can break down the things that people have trouble with into its parts and treat them as skills to build. And fundamentally to that is just meeting kids where they are.
Absolutely.
The more time we spend beating up a kid for not being the thing we, from our own biases wanted them to be, the less we're able to help that kid. And like that doesn't serve anybody.
Absolutely.
Kind of like getting the individual's ego out of the way to actually support the kid and help them.
Yes. Again, so much of that from the teacher. And trust me, I love the school I'm at. I love the teachers that are there. But I can't even tell you how many kindergartners I've gotten in the last couple years for just simple, they're a kindergartner, they're 5. No, they're not going to want to sit at their seat. No, they're not going to be happy they have to do this long reading assessment on the computer 3-4 times a year. No, they're not going to share well, probably. No, they're not going to want to walk in a line. And they're like, well, they're impulsive. They're also 5. This is not necessarily a Miss Bree issue, but I can't turn away kids, and they could benefit from whatever I do, be it basic feelings, foundational skills, basic foundational social skills, whatever it is. But a lot of it is they're just 5. They're just a kid. Even my older ones up to 5th grade, they don't want to sit there all day either. Reading block is 90 minutes. Not the most fun thing they probably have to do, especially, like we said, for the kids who, I hate to read, I hate books, I hate math, I hate numbers, whatever it is. A lot of it is they're just kids. So we got to figure out how to work with just kids.
Right. And we have turned school, especially in the younger years, into much more work, much less free time, much less unstructured time. So kids are getting burnt out and frustrated, and we're seeing more behaviors. I mean, it's part of the reason why ADHD diagnosis rates are skyrocketing.
Massive, yeah.
Because we're more aware of it, which is good, but also we are pushing kids past their limits, and then their response to that looks like ADHD.
Exactly.
Right? Dysregulation, inattention, disorganization, right? So yeah, it's definitely a bit of a chicken and the egg thing. And if I keep talking about that, then we will do an entire other podcast about that. And I'm going to put my soapbox down.
Yeah. Ugh.
Bree, I just got to say, like, they're so lucky to have you. You are just so authentic in this and so grounded, and it's so accessible. I mean, if we could clone you, we'll clone me, then we'll clone you, and then we'll just have a lot of really skilled, empathetic humans running around and make the world a better place.
Absolutely. I genuinely love what I do, and that's half the battle, is finding people who are genuinely committed to the profession because they love it and they want to do it, rather than it's for the paycheck, it's for the status, or it's for whatever it might be. Not to knock people who have to do that to make ends meet. I get it. I've been there in sucky jobs. But it's so different when you love what you do and what you want to do. Like, I was just talking to my family about going back to work on Friday after my leave. They're like, you're so lucky that you have a job that you're excited to go back to. Because it's so much harder to, leave your baby at home with whoever. But when you're excited to go back to what you do, it makes it so much easier. I visited on Monday to start my transition process, seeing my kids in the hallways, talking to teachers again, everyone who's like, man, we're excited for you to take things back over.
Yep.
But it was just so nice to get back into it because I do love what I do. And I am excited to catch back up with these kids and see what's been going on and see how I can help them and support them, see what new things are coming up that I can work through with them. I genuinely love it. And that's, again, half the battle is just genuinely loving what you do.
Awesome. All right. Well, then we are going to start our wrap-up process, our transition process, as it were. We're transitioning to the end of the episode. Jake and I are each going to ask you our wrap-up question, and then we will give you a moment to sort of share with the audience any parting wisdom. So I'll start. Bree, if you could have any superhero in the world on speed dial, who would it be and why?
Oh man, that is not what I was expecting for a question. Well, my favorite superhero is Spider-Man, in that because he is just a teenage boy at heart. He is just a goofy guy who got thrown into this. I have superpowers and I'm going to do the best that I can with them. And man, he messes up a lot. And that makes him so authentic and relatable. And you kind of need someone like that. Because I don't know about you guys, but imposter syndrome hits me hard every now and again. And I feel like I can't do a darn thing right to save my life. And so having someone who you can classify as a superhero, one of the best, one of the greatest, and say, oh yeah, man, I really messed that up. Or, I totally screwed up this way. If superheroes can mess up, so can human beings. So I'm probably going to go Spider-Man there.
Love it. All right, Jake.
I love that. And that's like a perfect reasoning too.
Yeah.
All right. My question for you is, what's your favorite word and why?
Word? Oh my God. These are weird questions. Gosh darn it. Okay.
You're welcome.
It's a weird podcast.
It is weird. Like in meaning or like just saying it, or does it not matter?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. I really like the word bubble to say, just because it's funny. I like all the bees. Carrying meaning, though, I like empathy, but that's just a cheesy counselor thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with bubble, I guess. Bubble's a good word because it's fun to say and it's goofy. It rolls off the tongue. It makes you laugh.
And it has meaning.
Yeah, you just need something to make you laugh, and I love bubbles.
Bubble is one of my favorite coping strategies for angry kids, right? You make your voice as deep and as angry as you can. You can say the word bubbles. And we were in the cafeteria at Grayson, and I did that with one of the kids. And it worked for the kid, but I look over and Jake is doubled over. He's laughing so hard. I was like, "Are we ready, guys? Ready?"
I forgot about that until now.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Man. Yeah. Well, you laugh with your whole body, which is why you're my co-host.
That's awesome.
It's delightful to watch. All right, Bree, thank you for answering our questions, even though they were both unexpected. You recovered very well. Is there anything you'd like to send our audience home with?
Just, again, the foundational practice for relating to anybody is just meeting them where they're at. We're all human beings at the end of the day. We're all awkward. We all have our own insecurities and things that we're struggling with. And so just treat everyone with kindness. That's what I try to leave everybody with. You never know what someone's going through based on what you look and what you see from them. You know, they may have had a terrible day. They may have something awful going on. And so just being kind is the least that we can do. So meet everyone where they're at, be kind, take care of other people, be a good human being, leave the world better than you found it, all that good stuff.
Very cool. Well, then let's go out there and leave the world better than we all found it. So I think that's a great thing to wrap up on. For everybody here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, thank you for going on this journey with us and listening to this episode. I feel inspired. I feel motivated. I feel like I want to dust off my World of Warcraft account. It's been a minute.
We've got space.
We do.
I'm sure you do.
We've got space in our raid. I'm just saying.
La, can I pick anyone more things? No. But yeah, we have fun here. Bree, you're delightful. Go out there and be awesome. Thank you for our guest, Bree, for being here with us. Jake, you want to say goodbye?
Awesome to see everybody. Awesome to talk with everybody, obviously. Bree, I will see you on Tuesday, hopefully, for raid.
Yeah, I'm going to make my husband hold the baby so I can play.
It's perfect. Yes.
Raid.
Thanks, guys.
Of course, thank you.
Bye. Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.